Wendell Willkie. Wendell Willkie is a progressive Republican. He won the Republican nomination in 1940. And I thank you. That was Wendell Willkie, right? Wendell Willkie. He's going to run against FDR just on the eve of Pearl Harbor, the U.S. entry into World War II. 1940, 1 year ago, Hitler invaded Poland. That one guy in the background laughed too hard. So incredible. Wendell Willkie was a Democrat 2 years prior to 1940. He's going to be a dark horse candidate. He's going to go to the Republican convention back when democracy in America actually mattered. It was a Darwinian experience. Americans looked at democracy, took democracy serious, and wanted the best candidate to lead their, state or nation or what have you. So, Wendell Willkie, he had broke ranks with his other Republican candidates because it seemed like he was okay with going to fight Hitler. He said a lot of comments that it was okay, but then he was running against FDR, started calling him a warmonger, started saying a bunch of isolationist shit right at the end of the campaign, right before the November election. And he regretted it afterwards because Wendell Willkie is going to die in 1944, 4 years later. And before he does that, he actually becomes FDR's best right-hand man. Goes to Britain, sees how people are being stoic and brave and courageous, and basically asks for the Lend-Lease Act. Says, hey, the British need some money. And that was kind of our first, step towards World War II. So he was the Republicans up until Wendell Willkie, or right around Wendell Willkie, or in Wendell Willkie's day and age. You had Dewey, good old Tom Dewey, Vandenberg, Taft, Robert Taft, Dewey. They were staunchly anti-war, and so Wendell Willkie saying that FDR maybe should go to war was huge news, and it's probably why he won the nomination. That and his, set of locks. He had a nice set of hair. And essentially, Wendell Willkie was pro-FDR, thought that government should intervene. It was a depression. You needed some intervention. Apparently integrated in Michigan, Indiana. I don't know. He's from Indiana. But Wendell Willkie's big criticism of FDR was a Republican one. He was pro-private enterprise. He was pro-economic freedom. If you're going to just rely on a controlled economy by the government, then, basically capitalism is dead and gone. And so he supported a lot of the New Deal programs Wendell Willkie did. He actually wanted to expand Social Security. And so did the 1956 Republican platform. They wanted to expand Social Security too. That was Eisenhower and Nixon. 56. When Wendell Willkie had gotten nominated in 1940, 150,000 people came to Indiana to hear him speak. His grandparents were Germans. They were 1848ers, which is actually better than being Germans. They were revolutionaries. They were like the socialists, Marxist socialists who rabble rousers. They tried to do revolution, failed, came to America, and was like, well, maybe we can do something around here. Unfortunately, Wendell Willkie is going to smoke 3 packs a day, 3 packs of Camels, Joe Camel, and it's probably the cartoon. And he drank a bunch of liquor, smoked a bunch of, cigarettes. Basically, he was, I'd rather be right than be president kind of guy. Kind of like that goddamn Henry Clay. So, I'm not for sure what Wendell Willkie ended up representing. You heard him speak, and he liked getting in front of the press and just kind of making jokes and being cheeky. But he didn't really say much. And his criticisms of, the New Deal was pretty simple enough. But I guess if you hit the big strokes, that's all that matters. Big government, too much socialism. We need private enterprise. Let the business community, let people cut taxes, cut regulations. Let's see what people can come up with on their own. For that to work, you'd have to have a cheerleader. You'd have to have somebody saying, rah, rah, rah. He was also pro-draft. Wendell Willkie was pro-draft and pro-battleships for British bases. They were exchanging U.S. battleships for British bases, which apparently was... He's going to get 45% of the vote, which was the biggest chunk against FDR. FDR was just super-duper popular, really. Anybody who was going to run against FDR was going to lose. So Wendell Willkie just kind of stepped up and he got 22 million votes. He won 10 states, but it was a landslide victory. 45%, 55%. The popular vote wasn't too bad, but the electoral college was pretty bad. Pretty bad. So that's kind of a progressive Republican, more of a moderate Republican, I would say. And he was for war, imperialism. It's kind of right wing. I don't know how. Anyways, it's kind of cool. Democrat, 2 years later, Republican nominee running for president against FDR. And he just made a bunch of fatal missteps along the way. He could have won. He could have fucking won. But anyways, I digress. R.I.P. Wendell Willkie.